Biggest cause of divorce in the United States is mistrust or infidelity, followed closely by financial problems, an inability to resolve conflict, an inability to compromise, and a lack of communication. If you're a cross-dresser and you want to come out to your spouse because it's been driving you crazy your whole life, and you didn't know how to deal with it when you met this wonderful person and you got engaged, and you thought you could control it and it didn't have to be a big deal, and now it's kind of getting the best of you and you really wish you could share it and you could let your spouse know about it, and it's starting to really bug you. You got to tell them, how do you do it? Okay? It's not easy. I know it's not easy. Over my life, I've told a lot of people about my being transgender because I wanted to know that they would accept me for who I am, and they would be a true friend or a true, loved one, loving me completely. And if they couldn't accept it, then we didn't have to be friends anymore. And that's a tough thing, and a tough thing to do, and a lot of people can't do it, and they shouldn't be expected to. But you can't keep this thing from your spouse, okay? And you know it. It's a secret. It's a secret that you shouldn't be any secrets between spouses. But it's a monkey on your back, and it's going to make you feel really good to dump that monkey on your back. And you're going to feel great afterwards, maybe, but she's got to deal with it now. She's got to process that thing that you've been processing your entire life, okay? Or he. But primarily I'm talking about heterosexual males, so your spouse is probably a woman. First of all, before you do anything, I think you should see a therapist. Okay, you should see either a family therapist or a psychologist or a transgender therapist, someone that understands trans. Hey, there's millions of crossdressers in the United States. You are not alone. You are not alone by any stretch of the imagination. There's millions of crossdressers hiding this and keeping this secret. Today, more than ever, it's a good time to come out. I'm not talking about coming out to your boss and coming out to all these other people. It's not necessary. It's not in your best interests. In 30 states in the country, if you start coming out to people, you could lose your job over something like this, and you wouldn't have any recourse. So you got to tell your spouse. You and your spouse can keep that secret together. Get that therapist. Understand what it is you're feeling. It's possible that you're transsexual. Okay? A very, very small percentage of crossdressers end up becoming transsexual. Or they always were, but they just didn't know how to deal with it and didn't understand it. And they grew into those feelings and learned to accept themselves as a transsexual. Okay? But for a long time, they just believed they were simply cross-dressers. Figure out what it is. Role play it with your therapist. Get it down. Give it to your wife. Don't confess it like you're committed some terrible crime. You got to practice it. Explain to her what it is. Explain to her why you want her to know. And then shut up and let her talk or not talk. Let her process it. Okay? You can, at some point, let her know that you will be there if she has any questions. But don't be surprised if she doesn't want to ask you questions because she's lost her trust in you. Okay? Some of you may be surprised to find that your wives already had an idea about this. They were guessing about it, and you just confirmed it for them, and it's going to be okay. Maybe as long as I don't have to see it. As long as I don't have to see it, maybe it's okay. Some spouses will even accept it, and you guys will flourish going forward. but that's a small percentage. It is. I don't want to give anyone false hope. And you could even you can subscribe to all of my advice that I'm giving you tonight, and still your wife or your spouse might not accept it, and you might have issues, serious issues with your marriage. Okay, I don't want you to blame me. Um, most of what I'm telling you has been gleaned from 37 years involvement with the transgender community and seeing marriages collapse when, and not understanding exactly why, but knowing that the steps I'm giving you tonight were not carried out by the crossdresser, and that could have been what resulted in the end of the marriage. The biggest thing that I see with spouses trying to accept it is that the crossdresser sees a little bit of acceptance in the spouse and then tries to push it, and sees that as a green light to go and show her and go shopping with her and buy clothes. And all of this is going to rub her the wrong way. She's threatened by you being a girl or looking like a girl. Okay, they're going to be threatened by it. It doesn't mean they're weak. It means they had a role. They always thought of themselves as the woman. They always thought of themselves as the pretty one, and now maybe they see this stuff starts to get blurred. Okay, you're supposed to have all those clothes over there, and you're supposed to look that way, and you're supposed to look like the protector, and I'm supposed to look like the receiver of that protection, and the more demure, more beautiful one. Okay, it's just simple. It's just basic human nature, and it's completely understandable. Once you've told them, and you're sitting back, it's all about them. Okay, hopefully they'll want to go and see a counselor. Maybe they don't trust you to explain everything that's going on with you because they don't know what else you did wrong or what else you're hiding from them, even though you may not be hiding anything at all from them. But they're not going to trust you, and it's going to take you a while to get that trust back. So let them go to a therapist. If you haven't found one, if they don't want to go to the one that you worked with initially, fine. Let them find their own. Let them tell you their boundaries for your behavior. Let them set the boundaries for your behavior. Okay? By them accepting you, keeping you around, not divorcing you, staying married to you because they do love you, and women are fiercely loyal to the men that they love. I got to tell you, I put my wife through hell, and she's not going anywhere. And it's all working out, and she didn't leave me. Okay, and now we're working it out. They're very fiercely loyal. You keep your clothes to yourself. Don't try to wear her clothes or share clothes unless it's her idea. Okay. Where are you going to go, or where do you go? What nightclubs do you go to? Have you ever run into any of her friends when you were out at the nightclubs? Is she going to worry about somebody recognizing you if you go out together anywhere? Stuff like that. Probably not going to happen. Once again, the vast majority of crossdressers that I know, their wives won't have anything to do with them. They accept it. They love them. They stay married to them. They do all the things that a husband and wife do together, except for that. Okay? The husband does his thing. It's important that she understands that you are a man, heterosexual man, and that you're not going to become a woman. So that's why I say you got to know it. For the longest time, I knew there was something else besides just cross-dressing with me. And I kind of alluded to that with my wife, but I was still trying to deny it. But I always knew in the back of my mind there was something else going on. And if you feel that, you got to try to come to terms with it. She may tell you that you can't leave the house dressed, so you don't get to leave the house dressed. Did you leave the house dressed before you told her? Chances are, if she accepts this, it's going to get a little easier for you. You're not going to have to hide things as much. Unless you've got kids. Don't tell your kids. If they're small, do not tell your kids. Kids don't like keeping secrets, and in this day and age, they might feel so super proud of their father because he's trans that they might just run to school and just tell everyone that their father's trans too, and they need to set up a certain bathroom for him when he comes there. Okay, you got to keep that a secret with your kids until they're old enough to understand and keep it a secret. That's what I did with my kids. It worked out great. I have their support, their love, my entire family. All right. If you raised your kids or if you married a bigot, you know, talk to that counselor. Okay, you know your spouse better than I do. You you may know right away that you're going to be opening up a hornet's nest, and but really, all experts agree. She needs to know. You need to tell her. I hope this has helped in some way. The millennials and younger kids, the kids that probably aren't married yet or engaged, are going to have a lot easier time finding a spouse that accepts cross-dressing or accepts transgender behavior. No, they're not. They're not all out there on apple trees ready to be picked off. But there's going to be a lot more of them going forward. We all see that in society. The transgender agenda, the transgender narrative has targeted the youngest folks because they're the most malleable minds and easily influenced. And I find my most acceptance when I'm out in society, out in public. My greatest acceptance comes from younger people under the age of 40, under the age of 35. There's still people that don't accept it, young people that don't accept it, but we all got our issues to deal with. Cannot stress the importance of not pushing too hard on your wife. Remember, okay, my analogy that I've used in seminars that I've given is I don't want to trivialize this, but my car needed a new exhaust system, and my wife went to work, and I had the day off, so I spent the day shopping for a new exhaust system for my car, and I couldn't believe the price that I got from the first mechanic and the second mechanic and the third mechanic and the fourth mechanic and the fifth mechanic, and finally I settled on this mechanic, and it's going to cost, because it has catalytic converters and all this other junk that I have absolutely no idea what they do. It's going to cost $1,000 for a new exhaust system in my car. And I have to get it done right away, or I won't be able to drive it because I'll lose my driver's license, my license plate, because it didn't pass an emissions test that we have in our state. So we got to get it done, $1,000. My wife comes home from work and says, "Did you have any luck finding out about the muffler?" And I said, "About the exhaust system." And I said, yep, it's going to be like $1,000. It's going to be $1,000. Yeah. She says, $1,000? Are you crazy? How many mechanics did you talk to? Are you sure they're not trying to rip us off? How could it be that much? And I said, "Honey, been there, done that, worked through the whole thing, processed it all. Okay. We're talking about an exhaust system here, so that only took 7 hours. Okay. She just heard about it when she walked through the door, and she would like to have those 7 hours as well. And typically by the next morning, when she gets out of bed, she says, "Okay, get the car fixed." And I guess that's what it's going to be. Huh? I go, "Yeah, really. I shopped. I did all the legwork. I worked through it. I did all the processing, and I know you needed more time, but yeah, got to do it." Okay, now we're talking about something that you've had to process for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, 60 years. Okay, don't expect her to process it overnight. All right, probably they're gonna love you. I'd be irresponsible to tell you 100% of the time that your marriage is gonna survive something like this. But if you don't push too hard, and you give her time to process it, and you give her the proper counseling to process it, or she can get give her access to the proper counseling, to process it. We know, because there's millions of crossdressers in the United States, that there's probably millions of wives keeping that secret with their husbands. It's better to confess or to admit or to explain this aspect of you than it is to get caught. Love and peace to all, and let's just try to accept one another for who they are.